Hi, my name is Chris Desmond, and for my project I had Cessna 172 aircraft structure and flight controls. For my demonstration, I'm going to be using a 1956 Cessna 172. So the main support system for the Cessna 172 is the wing strip. It's held together by one bolt here at the bottom and one bolt at the top. This supports the wing when the plane is on the ground, and it also holds the fuselage to the wing when the plane is flying. So the main support structure for the wing is the front spar. Running down the entire length of the wing, the front spar is the main support structure. On the trailing edge of the wing, we have the ailerons. Now the ailerons control your roll during flight. Unlike the newer model Cessna 172s with the electronic flap switch, this old one has a lever in the cockpit. It's controlled by pulleys, cables, and a bell crank, which retract and extend the flaps. So the airframe on this 172 is an all-aluminum semi-monocoque, which means that all the essential parts are aluminum, including the wing spar and the ribs. So the main gear on this 172 is a spring steel landing gear. The horizontal stabler is basically made up of all the same components as the wing. It's got a front spar and acts just like a wing when it comes to lift and whatnot. Now the elevator, just like the ailerons and the flaps, are run by a pulley cable system all connected to a bell crank. Just like in all planes, this also has a rudder. But the difference is the horizontal stabilizer, like the Moonies, is completely vertical. Now the rudder is used for yaw in flight and ground maneuvering while on the ground. As you can see here, the bell crank and the cables are under the rudder and on the inside of the elevator. As you lift it up, you can see the rudder cable right there and the elevator cables where my fingers are pointing to. Like all 172s, this plane has one trim tab on the right side of the elevator. It is run by cables, chains, and a single push rod connected by a single bolt at the bottom. These here are the Venturis. For most planes who don't have a vacuum pump, this is what they use to drive the vacuum system. It's caused by a low pressure here in the middle, which sucks the air through this little hole at the front. This drives all the vacuum systems in the plane. The nose strut on this airplane is called an oleo strut. It's a mix of nitrogen and hydraulic fluid, and unlike all free castering airplanes, this is connected to the rudder pedals in the cockpit to ease on ground handling. This aircraft is powered by a Continental 0300, which is a 145 horsepower carbureted engine with 6 cylinders horizontally opposed. Like all planes, this plane is equipped with a pitot tube and a stall horn. The pitot tube is automatically covered, and when the wind picks up, it moves the cover away so that you can pick up airspeed. The controls in this plane are the same as any control in any plane. You got the regular yoke, you got the regular rudder pedals, and you got the regular throttle and mixture. The big difference between this and some of the newer ones is the manual flaps, which are controlled by a lever instead of an electric system. Now that I've told you all about the main structural components of 172, I'm going to tell you the differences between the structure made in this 172 and in some of the newer ones. It's a 2008 Cessna 172 SP with the G1000 cockpit. One of the most obvious changes is in the back of this plane towards the tail section. Most noticeably, the vertical stabilizer is not vertical. It's more of a slanted angle to increase aerodynamic efficiency. Also, unlike the fastback, this model has a rear window. Another change from the older model 172 to the newer is the addition of this back door, which aids in the loading and unloading of baggage. Another noticeable difference between the older 56 172 and the newer one is the cowling. And that's because the older 56 172 only has a 145 horsepower engine. The newer SP has 180 horsepower, requiring a much bigger cowling to fit the engine in. As you can see also on the newer model 172s, it doesn't have a Venturi system. This is because it has an engine-driven vacuum pump to run all of the vacuum systems. Another change is in the landing gear. Unlike the spring steel gear of the 56, this has a tubular gear with a fairing wrapped around it for aerodynamics. It's also slightly slanted forward, as you can see. Another big difference between these planes is the size of the gas tank. The older 172 is a 42-gallon tank, whereas this holds 53 gallons, which makes for a much longer cross-country ride. One of the last big differences is here on the left side wing, with the pitot tube and the stall horn. Now, unlike the other one, the stall horn on this has various tones depending on how deep into the stall you are. And the pitot tube, instead of coming off the wing in here, drops down from the bottom and sticks out the front that way. This also has pitot heat. One of the biggest differences between this plane and the older one is the cockpit. As you can see, this isn't your typical round dial cockpit. You got two LCD glass screens, which make for a much easier ride. These screens can do just about anything from weather to traffic awareness to en route planning. One of the final differences between the new Model 172s and the old is the addition of electronic flaps. Instead of being controlled by a lever in the cockpit, these are electronically controlled to go to 10, 20, or 30 degrees of flaps, not 40 like the older models.